Hello YouTube, ESXi here. In this video we are going to get a sliver beacon on the workstation machine we found last time. Then we are going to loot some stored browser passwords and use them to access Bitwarden. Finally, we'll compromise the Bitwarden server itself and backdoor its login page, allowing us to get all master passwords of users that are actively logging in. Alright, so I'm back on Manage Engine here on the workstation, so this is exactly where we left off last time. And the first thing I'm going to do is to download the beacon here, just like this, from port 8000 from our box. And this OneDrive updata.exe is just our initial payload we also had on the first box, right? And now we're just going to run it. And then after a moment, we should get a beacon and sliver. So there's our beacon. I'm also going to do one as Kali, because I just want to have both options to later choose from, right? So there will be two beacons running. And here we have our beacon from the other user. Also make that interactive. And now we basically have everything we need to get started. So now I'm in the session with system and we're just going to look a bit around, see if we can find anything interesting. So we're still in the temp directory here. Let's look around a bit. So on C, maybe let's check program data here. Okay, we can see there is Avira as well, so it's also running on this machine. Other than that, there isn't really anything interesting here. Maybe let's check out program files. Anything interesting? Avira again. Oh, there's labs, so they're like randomized administrator passwords on this machine as well. But other than that, I don't really see anything that's too interesting here. Well, since we are system, one thing we can always do is like try to dump credentials, either from Alsace or from DP API. So I'm going to try that way first. So we can do sharp DP API, and then we do machine triage. And this should give us like all DP API secrets that are stored. Let's see. This is not too interesting, lot of default stuff. Yeah, but there's also one that's not default. And here we get the username and the password of Carly Adams. And we should be able to see where this is from. Yeah, so there's a scheduled task running as this user. So that's the reason the credentials are here in clear text, readable by us, basically. We don't really know what this user can do. So let's check it out in Bloodhound as well. And if we look at Carly Adams here in Bloodhound, we can't really see anything interesting. Seems to be an office. Looks like a non-privileged OU. Nothing too interesting. Password never expires. Let's see. Group memberships. It's just domain users and office. Not a local admin anywhere. Nothing in outbound object control. So this user doesn't seem to like be important at this stage. Let's see, is Adams maybe used again in some form? No. Seems to be a pretty unspectacular user from first sight. So what else can we do? Well, it's a user on the domain and we already saw in the initial enumeration that there's a Bitwarden instance running. So there's a pretty good chance that like users that are working in the company are storing their passwords in Bitwarden. You don't really know if this particular user has a password there, but there's a chance, right? So how would we go about the case where this user has stored his Bitwarden password in his browser on this machine? One thing you can do is you can use Sharp Chrome, which is a tool that is basically already included in Sliver. It allows to dump credentials from browsers like Chrome or Edge. So for Edge, there's like a special switch. And since we didn't see Chrome installed, the only option really is that if he has a password stored, it would be in Edge. So let's try to get that. Let's switch to the session here of Kali. Because if we want to read his browser passwords, we have to be the user, right? Then let's just try it out. Sharp Chrome, logins, and then we have to like do browser Edge and hope something comes back. And this is indeed the case. So there's one stored credential here, which is for this machine. And here are the credentials. Okay, so let's actually try to find out which machine this is. S and then V10, I think it was. Okay, then let's go there. And this is actually Bitwarden. Okay, so let's try to log in there. And this works, we can log into Bitwarden, and there is one password stored here, which seems to be for the ESXi server and even as root. So this is really cool. Let's save this password as well. And now we got the credentials for the ESXi server. Let's try to log in here. So it should be root, right? Then the password. And we can actually log into the ESXi server, and there's one virtual machine here. So let's check out this machine. It's V010, and if you remember, this is our Bitwarden machine. So it seems that Bitwarden is running on this ESXi server. And in the notes here, it even has the root password for the Bitwarden machine. So we can use that to access the machine now. And then maybe do something to Bitwarden that's interesting. Now, if the password wasn't here, you could also get access, but it would be like more difficult. Since we have control over this, and this is just a VM, in theory we could just export it, right? Then we could like check out the machine locally, we could like change hashes if we wanted to, or change the root password, and then re-import it, and then get access that way. That would be one example, or you could also do other stuff. You can also get like SSH access to the ESXi server itself if you enable it in the config, but we are not going to do that. So for simplicity, we're just going to use the credentials that are here, but if they weren't, there would be other options. So let's try to SSH there. Actually, we need proxy chains, then this password. And now we should be on the Bitwarden server itself. It's not here, let's try that. And yeah, there's a web server here on HTTPS, so this is Bitwarden itself. Okay, now let's think about for a second how we can use this. Bitwarden itself is not really storing stuff here in unencrypted form. So even if there would be a bunch of credentials saved for different users, we would have a hard time decrypting it. So there isn't really a point in like grabbing the database, right? And actually, if you look at Bitwarden here, security white paper, I think pretty close to the beginning, it's already describing this here, like end-to-end encryption. It's end-to-end encrypted, all keys are generated and managed by the client on your devices, and all encryption is done locally. So there's really no point in looting the database because you can't decrypt it. So what else can we do? Well, the users have to log into Bitwarden, and this is just like a web app that's running here, right? So what we can do is basically backdoor the login page to log the master passwords. And then we can log in ourselves and just use that to get access to the credentials. And this is exactly what we're going to do. So if you know Bitwarden already a bit, you know that this is a lot of Docker containers. So if I make this big, it's like, a lot, right? Let's see, there's web here, and there's Nginx, there's a database. So several things going on here. If you want to backdoor the login page, it would either be in Nginx or on web, right? Just judging by the name. So let's actually go to the web container, docker exec. Then we do Bitwarden web, bin bash. All right, now we are in the web container. And you can see that there are like the JavaScript files, HTML files, and all of that here. And if we just read index.html, this is the index page of Bitwarden. And we want to add something here that would lock the passwords so we can basically get them and then access Bitwarden ourselves. All right, so how are we going to do that? All right, so the payload we are going to use is this one. Essentially, we are requesting on the web server itself just an image file. And whenever the user is pressing a key, we are basically appending it. And then every 5 seconds, we are sending the whole thing. Why are we not just sending it back to our machine? Well, there will be like restrictions with cores and stuff like that, so you can't just send it out to your machine, but we can happily log it on the web server itself, and because we are sitting on it, we can read it from the logs, right? So there's no need to like send it back to our attacker machine. The Docker container doesn't have like VI or Nano, there isn't anything like that. So I'm going to just base64 encode this and then basically copy paste it into the machine. So let's copy this here. And then we want to call this log.js. So this worked. We have our logging backdoor functionality here, but we still have to include it into the index page, right? And we do this, I'm just going to like cut the index HTML page here, copy this, put it here. Then we add our JavaScript, just like, for example, here. It's just including our app and then log.js, the file we just created. And we echo it back into index.html. And now if we cut it, we can see that this is like added at the end here, right? So now we backdoored the login page. So if someone were to log in, where would this be logged? Well, not in this container, but in the Nginx container. So let me just SSH here again. All right, let's now enter the Nginx container. It should usually be in var log, I think. And then let's do tail on the access log and grab for our image file, just like this. Okay, there's nothing here. And I guess now it's waiting, right? Actually, I think we don't need this app here. So let's just do this one again. See if there are any errors here. Doesn't seem to be like it, so let's test maybe this. All right, doesn't work, but you can already see here that it tried to like send something. So if we look into the log here, we can see that it actually requested our image, and then we get the email address here that was entered, including the password. So this works. We actually backdoored the login page, and now we are getting requests on the web server where it's trying to load an image that doesn't exist, with a parameter that is the keys that have been entered. So this is working, and now we just have to wait and see if someone is actually using the Bitwarden, and then maybe we would get a password here. So alright, after a moment we can see that we actually get hits here, and some users actually using the login page, and this is Fiona Stewart here. Alright, let's see if this user can actually do something. So if we look for Fiona here, like here, yeah, there isn't any interesting permissions, it's just a domain user. And she's in IT, but there are many people in IT, so that isn't really helping yet. What if we just look for Stewart? You can see that this person actually has multiple accounts. So there's a HD, which is a help desk account, and there's a DOM account. And these are all different privilege levels, and actually they're implementing a tiered administration model where different user accounts, or better, different roles have different accounts. This is helping with security in a sense, because if you compromise a normal user, like Fiona, maybe in this case, if this would be her domain account password, we wouldn't automatically get access to the other accounts, right? So this helps preventing having full access directly if you compromise a user, because you don't necessarily have their other accounts. Okay, so let's see what this HD account is. So this one has a lot of permissions. It's an account operator. So this is like an help desk account, right? Account operators can reset passwords, so this will likely be then some account they use to change user passwords. Okay. Let's also check this DOM account here. And this one is actually just a domain admin. So Fiona is very interesting. She has multiple accounts. She's a domain admin, she's an help desk, and she has a normal user account. But we didn't get her domain credentials, we got her Bitwarden credentials. So let's see if there's anything interesting in there. And there's something. Actually, she stored her help desk account password inside Bitwarden. So now we got access to this help desk account we just saw, right? This account here, which is an account operators and has basically permissions to like reset user passwords. Okay, so I'm going to stop at this point and leave the next step to you, at least until the next video. Maybe you can use the help desk account to become an actual domain admin and do some enumeration on like the next domain. If you can't, that's fine too. We'll do it in the next video. Thank you for watching and see you next time.